recording to the cloud. And now that it's an official start of class, I put my suit coat on. So professors look more professional with a suit coat and a tie and a sweater. I hope you all are doing well at the start of 2023. And I'm curious, for any of you, just raise your hands if this is your first class in IST or among the first semester in IST. So Jennifer, I think we've chatted a bit. You're down in Dallas Community College folks. Great people down there. Had a good time when I was there. It's been a while. So we got Bo in Purdue and Jennifer in Dallas, and we've got some people in between. Asune is coming from out in the Pacific, in Palo Alto. She's going to talk about her research at Harvard. Mika is in Bloomington, I believe, right, Mika? And Tommy's at Richmond in IU East. Is that right?
Sorry, I'm still driving. No, I'm in Maryland.
Maryland, right? Okay, got you wrong. Thank you, Mika. Tell everyone what you do in Maryland.
So I'm a full-time speech language pathologist, and I work with both children and adults with a variety of disorders. I do pediatric feeding therapy, and the adults I work with are adults with developmental disabilities who are working on being successful in the workplace and just also in the community. So they're trying to get jobs or maintaining jobs or just maintaining their volunteer positions. And I love it. Thank you.
Thank you for jumping in while you're driving. I hope you stay safe there. At least the weather's not terrible this week, unlike a couple of weeks back for everybody. Brandon, where are you from again?
For the most part, Bloomington, Indiana.
You're in Bloomington here. So if you have currently. Yeah, if we have a meetup, you could possibly meet up.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you mentioned Lenny's. I'm down.
Yeah,
go to some local microgroup.
Sounds good. And Matthew, where are you coming from?
I'm in Whittier, California, which is a city in Los Angeles County.
Okay.
So Southern California.
Yeah. Is it the weather today? It's not rainy. It's rainy in North California, right? But LA is getting rain too, or not?
Yeah, we've got some rain. It was off and on today. Not as bad as the last storm, but we welcome it just because it's so infrequent.
Yeah, is it going to replenish the water supply?
If it's just this, it's probably like, a large splash in a bucket.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's too bad. It comes all in San Francisco area, right? Sune, are you getting rained upon again?
Actually, they said that tonight, but I'm not sure. Just till rain stopped, so we are really happy, but we are not sure. Yeah, they said that before Tuesday, another storm will come. So I don't know. Yeah,
A bunch in a row, and that makes for muddy roads in some places, probably with all the mountains around that area. And we've got Chu Ying. Are you in Bloomington?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, you're a doctoral student in learning sciences, or?
No, I am the IST student. Last year is my first semester, so this is my second one.
Okay, as a doctoral student or a master's?
Master student.
Okay, and where are you coming from? What part of China or Taiwan are you from?
China. I come from China. Yeah.
Where in China?
Middle, it's called Hubei province. Yeah, close to Wuhan. Yeah.
I'm invited to Beijing Normal at the end of the semester after the class ends for an international computer educator conference. So yeah. I've been there before.
I live in Beijing before too. It's the weather seems like here. Yeah, it's similar.
It's very similar, and it's a great city, very cultural, very diverse, very interesting place to be.
Yeah.
Once you get there, it's a lot of roads. Kristen?
Hi, I'm in Anger, North Carolina, which is right outside of Raleigh.
Good to have you with us. What do you do there in North Carolina?
thanks. I'm a training manager for a company called CSL, and this is my first class in this program. I was just recently admitted as a student, so master's in IST as well.
So you and Jennifer are in the same boat. Jennifer, are you a master's student or a certificate student coming in?
A master's student, and I just enrolled yesterday, so brand new.
Wow.
So Kristen and Jennifer, we'll try and get you both in the same groups from time to time, so you can talk about the things you're learning that are brand fresh and new, and the difficulties or challenges you're facing. Nick?
Hey, sorry, I'm in my kitchen right now. I'm about to start cooking. Just got back from work. Yeah, so I'm in Bloomington, and right now I'm just working part-time tutoring at Sylvan, looking at what else I can do maybe a job at the university or something. And yeah, so what else do we need to say?
Well, that's it. I think my daughter went to Sylvan or a place like that when she was young, and it really changed her life, got her very organized.
Oh yeah, that's great to hear. Yeah.
You know, Sylvan Learning Systems, that was the old name. Is that still the name?
Sylvan Learning Center, yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of what we do is technology now. They just put kids on an iPad, and they get their work from there. So it's pretty relevant stuff.
Sounds good. And Michelle, did I catch you? I may have missed you earlier.
It's okay. I'm in the new boat too. So this is my first semester in the master's IST program and one of my first 2 official classes. I'm in Cleveland, Ohio. And normally we have a lot of snow. We have 0 snow, and I'm very disappointed, I have to admit. For a living, I landed in education technology, and I've been serving that role at 2 different online clinical aromatherapy institutes in a couple different countries. And it lit a fire under me, and this just felt like the right next step. So I'm scared to death because I haven't been in school for decades, but I'm thrilled to be here.
I'm glad to have you guys here who are first semester students. I myself started in the January time at Madison, Wisconsin, a long time ago in the spring semester. I actually got my letter of acceptance after the semester ended. They didn't actually know I was there taking 12 credits. I quit my job and moved to Madison. I'm a former accountant or CPA. Now a former educational psychologist, as Bo and I were talking earlier. Maybe I'm still an educational psychologist. So my training's in ed psych with a minor in ed tech. And my first class in January of that semester, a long time ago, I took a couple courses in ed tech and learned a lot, including theory courses and development. And I did a video on, as a first project, on the high-tech centers that Madison was creating at the time, interviewing local people, and a university research park and a city research park. It was kind of fun first project. So we'll try and get you to do a fun first project in here. You got a lot of choice in the syllabus, as Bo and Tommy who've taken previous classes with me. I like choice in the class. I like students be empowered, but not having too much choice. So Tommy, unlike R611 Emerging Learning Technologies, which you may have taken, that was a 100-page monster syllabus. This is not like that. This is much more tame.
That was great. Great course.
That I'll do again next spring, hopefully. So I'll do R540, R678 next year at this time, and R546 on the instructional strategies in the fall, hopefully. Those are my 2 courses I've had for 30 years as a faculty, or over 30 years as a faculty. 2 of the 3 that I still carry along. And then this course I started teaching 7 years ago. I volunteered to do it. It's the intro course that sometimes the department gets a recent graduate to teach this course, because it's just a basic foundational type of courses, but it can get heavy into theory. And this class, as I talked to Bo early on when he and Tommy, when they showed up here, and Chu Yang, this course is both about instructional design and about learning theories, and at the intersection of them, sort of. but I maybe put a little more emphasis on learning theories than some of the other professors, 'cause that's my specialty or my area. If you do take P540 at some point, learning and learning and cognition in education, I taught that course, my first course as a faculty at West Virginia University back in 1989. I've taught it here for 30 years, but since I moved to IST 17 years ago, I've not done it as frequently. So Dr. Hickey does that in learning sciences, and other people do that P540. So if you like learning theories, that's another course you can take that'll get you more grounded. I think Dr. Hickey is teaching a course on theories of online learning, which I actually didn't know he had created, but he is teaching, I think, this semester. And I'm not sure if it's P674. I'm just throwing that out there. It's what comes to my brain. But anyways, if you're interested in learning theories, there are more courses to take if you want more applied. I think the course I taught last semester, R622 on designing learning environments, is a good one. I think my course in the fall on instructional strategies for critical thinking, creative thinking, cooperative learning motivation, which one of you may have had, I don't know, maybe not, is a good course for just pedagogy. And so I have a free book, which is listed in your syllabus on, and I'll just go through some of this, adding tech variety on activities for motivating and retaining learners online. That's free to download at techvariety.com. But now the thing is TEC-variety. Now the thing is, I come out with a new book a few months ago that's an update to that book that is also free and has a free class. And I am having a little bit of trouble remembering what's in the syllabus here, because my hard disk on my desktop crashed a couple days ago, and I'm floating on my laptop right now, so I can't print a lot of things. And I'm trying to look at the required books. So yes, it is on page 5 of your syllabus. The 2 free books are listed there. So those books don't directly relate to this class, but I thought I should list them in the syllabus because they are free. Also in Dropbox for this class, there are a number of free books that I've accumulated over time, or other faculty who teach this course use in their courses, and they've sent to me. So you'll have a number of free books in the Dropbox. You'll have a number of free articles. So every week, in the old days, you would go to Kinko's and buy the book pamphlet of all the articles that would cost you $30 to $60. In this course, you got to go to Dropbox and download the articles that with each week. And then Dropbox, which maybe I'll go through Dropbox after Sunmei presents. So Sunmei will present, then we'll take a break and we'll come back. I'll show you Dropbox. I might, I'll show you the website for the class. I'll show you Canvas for the class. So I'll walk you through all of that. And then we'll walk through the syllabus as well, what I don't get to right now. But in Dropbox, I've got the articles by author last name. So if there's an article by Dr. Tom Reeves, you just look in the Dropbox article listing under R, just look for Reeves and you'll find that article. So there are, the one problem of having my computer hard disk crash, there were about 20 more articles I wanted to consider to use in this semester. I would probably selected 3 or 4 or 5 of those new articles. Those articles only reside on my desktop. I didn't memorize all the ones. So for the last year, since I taught this course a year ago, I've been saving articles I wanted to think about using. And I created the syllabus, as you know, on Christmas Eve. But I wanted, when I came back from my daughter's in San Antonio, I wanted to update the syllabus. And because of my hard disk, or it's a new Dell computer, or relatively new, and it's got an 8 terabyte hard disk. And the people at Best Buy told me I've got too much hard disk space, so the Windows doesn't know where to send things. So I'm kind of hosed till they figure it out. So I apologize on that. And so that book I came out with in 2014, was updated this year in 2022 in September, and has a free class on how to motivate online. There's a sister book to that, my famous R2D2 book, Read, Reflect, Display, and Do, with my R2D2 model, with another 100 activities for teaching and learning online that I'll cover in that instructional strategies class. In this course, there's books such as Ed Tech Definitions with Commentary by Dr. Michael Molenda and his colleague. Dr. Michael Molenda is the one who created this class 40 years ago. He's been a guest speaker in this class a couple of times. I could bring him back this semester if we wanted to, but he has a book that's he's a historian of the field. So this is a book about the history of the field and educational technology. Now, do I highly recommend this book? If you're new to the field, yes. If you're not new to this field, probably not. If you think you've got some kind of substance and understanding of the field, then I wouldn't probably buy this book. It's really, I would say, meant to just as a primer, I guess, on the changing of the definitions within the field. Another book that's listed in there is Ali Carr, who's an alum of IST from 30 years ago. She's dean at Dayton University, was the dean at University of Idaho, was the president of AECT, which is the big organization that we belong to often in the IST field. She's well known, and she has a book on issues in technology, learning, and instructional design, classic and contemporary dialogue. So basically, it's a point counterpoint, it's people debating each other. And I, 3 years ago, had my students in this class and debate with students in another class at Wayne State that was taught by a former student of mine. This is a good book. If you buy this book, though, you can do one of the assignments around critiquing it or around reviewing it. So you'll see that in the syllabus. If you're interested in topics and what's being debated, you can buy that. I'm not listing it high on the list again. The book that's listed on most people's list very high is free in Dropbox, because somebody scanned the whole thing in, but it's only free to you. But it's a book on trends and issues in instructional design and technology by Dr. Robert Reeser, or Bob Reeser, at Florida State, and his colleague John Dempsey. A thinner version, this is a thicker version. A thinner version came out a few years ago. It's from Pearson. I highly recommend this book, no matter what stage you're at. But again, you can get it free in Dropbox. I think Ali Carr's book is free through IU. IU has libraries have made Ali Carr's book free. I downloaded it. That's also in Dropbox. I'm trying to think if there's other books that are listed in the syllabus. Go back to page 4 and 5. There's a couple of books. Oh, Dr. Jason McDonald and Richard West have basically created their own book company, or these EdTech people have created this open access books. So they're having people write free books to the world. They've done one, or two actually. They've done one on design for learning, principles, processes, and praxis. That is very good. And they were my guests last semester. And I'm bringing them back this semester for all of you. So we'll hear from Richard West and Jason McDonald from Brigham Young University talk about the EdTech resource that they've built to create free books in the field of educational technology. They won an award at ACT for that portal and for the design and for their ideas. They won one of the top awards at the conference. A couple other things to point out in recommended books. Olive Richter and my friend In-Sung Jung, who's also an alum of IST from Korea, have a handbook of open distance and digital education that is free from Springer, and that's also, and it's brand new, it's 2022. That's worth reading. I'm not going to recommend buying. Definitely download that book. It's brand new. In-Sung is a phenomenally brilliant researcher. She was a guest last semester in one of my classes that was looking at her new instrument on flexible and open thinking, which is an important area to explore. And then finally, there's a link to Donald Clark's Great Minds Learning podcast, 21 shows. Donald Clark he had a e-learning company early in the days and sold it for a lot of money, and he hasn't had to work for the last 20 years. So he goes around to every conference that exists and attends, and he writes many books, including one on AI. We're going to bring him in this semester. Donald Clark's a brilliant individual, born in Scotland, lives in Brighton in southern UK. I can't speak enough of him. He has a podcast show, so that's listed in there just as something you might want to listen to. There's another person named Mark Nichols who has a podcast show out of New Zealand, Legends of something, Legends of Educational Technology or Legends of Online Learning. Maybe it's Legends of Online Learning. He interviewed me a month ago. He's interviewed many people in the field, and he has a free website with interviews that he's done. I have a weekly podcast show called Silver Lining for Learning with a professor at Harvard, Chris Deedy, who's a futurist, with a guy named Young Zhao from the University of Kansas, and Punya Mishra from Arizona State, ASU. Punya is known for his TPAC model of technology integration with pedagogy at the K-12 level. We have a weekly podcast show too. It's embedded in the syllabus, so you'll see that in there. In some of the readings, we'll also have podcast options, so you'll have to decide what you want to listen to or watch or and so forth. So instead of using Canvas for discussions like we did last semester, we'll be doing blogs, personal blogs, and you'll get in teams. Since we have about, oh, sorry, Mika's in the waiting room. Apologies to Mika. I didn't see you you must have got disconnected in your car. Can you hear me, Mika?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. So where was I? Lost my train of thought.
Blogging.
Oh, blogging, yeah. Yeah. So we have two TAs in here. Kyung Wei is a TA in here, and Kate Dixon, Catherine Dixon, Kate Dixon. They'll be giving you feedback on the blogs as well as myself, and you'll have probably a team of 4 people in each group. There'll probably 16 people in the class right now. There might be one more joining or 2 more joining. They'll probably have 4 people in each blog team, and writing reflections on the weekly readings, giving feedback to each other. Probably that's how we'll do this. That worked well last time, and then you can keep that when you exit. Unlike Canvas, you can't keep those posts. So it's something that you have that's substantive that you can carry with beyond this particular class. Any last things soon, maybe before we want to go to your presentation? I forget anything important there. Sunmi, have you been a TA in this class in 511?
Yeah, last spring semester.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, 1 year ago.
Yeah. Was it with Xiaoying or?
Yeah,
Okay.
Xiaoying.
Okay. So would you like, before you present, would you like to give some advice or tips for everyone about this class and what you found beneficial and what they might find beneficial in the class?
Actually, I'm not sure. That's because I think that curriculum was a little bit changed. I think that's because this course is my first course after joining this program. Right now, I'm working on my dissertation and then my 4th year right now. And then first time I attended this class, it was really helpful. That's because actually Dr. Bonk provided really different types of, learning. And then I remember that first one actually pair project. And then I work with the one student entire, semester. And then we developed some, animation debate, video. And then we wrote to some reflection, and also we had a debate with the students in other Wayne's University, right? Yeah, and at that time I used the discussion board as well. And also, actually, for me, this course was really helpful. That's because the first reason why I joined this program is that I really want to learn the theory. That's because I already had some experience in, industry. So I really want to theory, concept and That's because my background was engineering. So it's really, really different from education. But this course is the, introduction course. And then it taught a lot about, what, instructional technology. And especially I remember that one assignment at that time, Dr. Bonk asked us to define every terms we can use in instructional technology. And then I thought a lot, and then I created my own maps, something like this. So what is, learning, what is teaching, and then what is instructional technology? It's something like that. And then I had time. The first time it was really hard, but gradually, I come up with my own definition, of course, based on, just a known definition, but I can create my own definition. And then every time everyone said, oh, what is instructional technology, something like that, and then I can say something, so that was really great guy. So I highly recommend just to follow Dr. Bong's direction. That's because it's the first class. I think that you guys are afraid. That's because I did the first time. That's because I had no idea about theory, right? But actually follow the Dr. Bong's direction. And then I read, article, and then just to say what I thought, you don't need to be expert in this theory, just to truly, frankly talk what you think about that. And then you can talk to your peers, and then you have some question at the time, just ask Dr. Bong, and then he's really quickly, reply to you, and then you got the answer. So that is my recommendation and tips. And I really love this class, actually, the first class I had. So that's the reason last semester, right? Last year, I worked as a TA. And then one more time, he asked you to come here and then share something. So I'm here.
So I'm kind of smiling. Thank you, Sumne. I'm kind of smiling because the assignment that she really loved, we no longer have. I deleted it. So if you're looking forward to that one, I could put it back in there. So that assignment was basically differentiating between what instructional technology is and what educational technology is, which brings me back to the definitions book that I said you don't need to buy this book because I no longer have that assignment in here. But for some people in the field, that's a critical thing. For many people, most people, I guess they see educational technology as a bigger thing and instructional technology is underneath that. But other people, it's the opposite. Just like some people think that critical thinking is more important than creative thinking, and other people think creative thinking is more important than critical thinking. It's an ongoing debate, and it's important to have the debate in your head and with other people, but we're not going to have it this semester. I've decided that there were too many assignments. So I had to, I had to look, I didn't want to, and that was also due the first couple weeks of the class. The important thing about having that is you get feedback right away and you get some points right away. But the disadvantage of having that right away, it happens right away and you have to force to think a lot. So I'm giving you a little break here the first couple of weeks and not have something to do in the first couple of weeks, but we could. In my other class, we are going to do something in the first couple of weeks. But I believe in a 2+2 model normally, and basically having two things due around midterm time and two things due around finals time. Now you'll see in the syllabus, I've put things due a little bit before the midterm and a little bit before finals, I think, so that during the final week, week 15, students can present their final projects as opposed to turning them in and getting feedback on week 16, 17, and so forth. So therefore, the last week of the semester, people can chat and share, and maybe even the week 14 in here and so forth. Normally, I have a different guest every week of the semester. This time I stopped after week 11, I think, and the last 4 weeks or 3 weeks, I don't have a guest. But, or maybe I could be talking out of the side of my mouth. I better make sure on that in here, because, yeah, so after week 11, so the last guest, yeah, so week 11 is John Graves. My first doctoral student is going to come back, who's an ultra marathon runner type of guy in the San Francisco area. He was a consultant for the big, one of these big consulting companies for a long, long time, a change management consultant. He's a brilliant guy. So he'll be the last speaker scheduled at this time in week 11, March 27. So the last 4 weeks, we could add people. and maybe I will, just things come up and we add them. But so I'll normally lecture for a bit and I'll have a guest for a bit. In this class, I'll lecture a little bit more than maybe some of the other classes at the beginning, the first 5 or 6 weeks, and not so much in the latter 6 or 7 weeks. A lot on learning theories, cognitive theory, behavioral theory, situated cognition theory, but a bit about instructional design, intro to the course, and a little bit about human performance technology. So this course is meant to be covering instructional technology and human performance technology, is more corporate training side. IST as a department used to have half and half. Half of the people were more educational technology, K-12 people and higher ed people, and half were corporate training people. Now we don't have any corporate training people left. They've all retired. One didn't get tenure and one left. So there really is no one from the, but I come from corporate. I worked in it for 5 years, but not in this space. Again, I'm an accountant by training. So I will cover that related to, and I did research on blended learning in corporate settings, online learning in corporate settings. So, I can speak to that. And so we'll end the semester more on that side. And so I brought in people, or I'm bringing in people who understand it, like Donald Clark and John Graves, and I could bring others in who know that side. We're also this semester going to hear from Dr. Robert Cosma, Bob Cosma, who helped me in graduate school, who's still around, has a brand new book on design. And he's famous for the famous Clark and Cosma debate about the impact on media on learning. And he's been a guest once before, and he asked if he could come back and talk about his new book, which is really great because he's very hard to get. He has a new book called Make the World a Better Place, Designed with Passion, Purpose, and Values. He'll be coming week 10. And that's pretty cool. So we have Donald Clark week 9, I think, Bob Cosma week 10, and John Graves week 11. Our last 3 speakers are like, wow, so it'll be a really cool way to, and we'll see if we can get 1 more or 2 more after that. The reason I think I stopped the speakers is because your assignments ask you to reflect on the speakers. If you do, one of the options lets you reflect on the speakers that we've had, and the assignments are due. And so some people don't come to the last couple speakers in this class. They don't show up to the Zoom sessions. So I decided, well, since no one's showing up the last couple weeks, why am I having all these famous people in, showing up the last couple weeks when, everyone's written their papers and so forth. So that was my rationale, but I still might bring someone in here. So, and if you recommend someone that I bring in, you'll get 2 bonus points. So, if you've got someone that you'd like to hear from, we have a couple open slots, and maybe it's your boss at work, or, someone you really have admired for a long time. So, anyways, I have a 2 + 2, 2 things to do in the beginning, 2 things at the end. Questions before Sunmei? Any questions so far? Raise your hands if anyone's read the syllabus, even part of it. Okay. What do you remember the most from the syllabus? What's one thing that stuck out?
There's a lot of choice.
As happens. Was there a choice in there that you liked?
I'll have to look deeper at the assignments before I answer that one.
Yeah, safe answer. Yeah, feel free to scan it. And Nick, was there anything that caught your attention?
No, I'd have to look at it more, but I just really appreciated that it was all really clearly laid out. I felt like of the syllabuses I've looked at, it's one of the easier ones to read and understand.
I've had help with TAs told me, Dr. Bonk, you need to organize this better. So I can't say that, but over time between me and the TAs, I think it's pretty organized.
Yeah, it definitely shows.
Jennifer?
My impression was that you are trying to share with us as many resources as you can. And I'm seeing that when you have the list of the articles for each week, and it said, I can't remember exactly which number, but choose X number of these articles rather than saying this must be read. And so that to me just communicated your passion for the field rather than having this fixed finite amount of information to cover. And
It's a good point. Thank you, Jennifer. I'm sorry, I cut you off. Is there anything else?
No.
So when you look at the syllabus in a week, in particular, there's a couple weeks I want you to read, definitely want you to read, but I don't want, there's a couple, so every week I'll point out the articles that I would recommend, or I'll try to point those out, the articles that I'll do it last thing or first thing, because there are classics in the field that you probably should read, but I don't want to require anyone to read anything, because I think our field's filled with too many prescriptions. And so, if I don't model that, if I start doing prescriptive kinds of learning and I have, internal resistance to prescriptive learning, then it's a quandary for me. I'm a hypocrite then. So I don't want to be a hypocrite. Michelle?
Well, what you just said about being resistant, I completely, that totally resonates with me. But also knowing that we all come from so many different backgrounds, giving us options and encouraging us to explore where it resonates with us both. Where, I think about our first reading and how you're just fostering that mindset, even with this approach.
Yeah, there you don't have a choice in week one is John Dewey, 1800s. But, you're right. This field is attracting people from every discipline. Medical people are enrolling on our courses like crazy. Radiology, we had 6 radiology people. I mean, we've always had people from nursing, I think, in the past, often for doctoral programs, because nursing doesn't have a doctorate. But, we've also had adult ed and corporate training, but now we're attracting so many different areas. People are seeing a need to upskill and reskill and have some certificate in IST gives them some job security in many places, or a master's in IST gives them job security, and EDD in IST gives them a chance for advancement. So the field's attracting just almost anybody could major in this field and get something from it, in my humble belief. So an important point, and Dr. O and I looked at our list of students last semester, and we were just amazed at the backgrounds and fields people came from, working in a prison, or working in a shopping center, or any background. Brandon, you're smiling. Anything in the syllabus that caught your attention?
I think maybe I'm just generally smiling. I wasn't. It's already been said. Honestly, the 2 major points that I agreed with were the amount of choice in the assignments, like the various tasks, the options.
Okay.
And then also the amount of resources that you gave. We're definitely very appreciative. So beyond that, I don't have any other thing that I could add. I'm kind of skimming through. I've already read it, but I'm skimming through it again just to be like, okay, is there anything else? But no, it feels pretty thorough, and it makes, I could see how maybe someone might be like, oh my God, there's like a lot of things, and it might be hard for them to be tethered to something.
Yeah.
But I don't see that as a problem per se. For me, I like that there's a lot of space to explore, and for us to sort of like come in, move around, see what we feel comfortable with, and whatnot. So yeah.
So Xiaoying, or Kristen, or Matthew, one of you want to make a final point before we go over to Sunme? Any one of you want to jump in here with a question or a comment?
I was just going to point out, I noticed that I think for most of the major tasks, you provide the option of either going solo or having a group. And I thought that was interesting, especially coming off the heels of a course that was pretty much all group work. So I was wondering if you had any thoughts about that, or if you've noticed how that unfolds throughout the semester, how people decide one way or the other.
Yeah, I used to have a website where people sign up to look for a match, like the matchmaker.com thing, find your match in your team or your group. We don't have that. We could get that back. It'd be good to have, actually. I'm finding more and more people are working on their own, but when they are working in a team, some tend to be big teams. So, people are doing 3 or 4 person teams, and that's okay. Other faculty are requiring teams at every assignment. When I start grading these, which take a while, I start saying to myself, Kurt, you should have required teams. You'd get a lot less things to read. But no, I think people need to explore, and sometimes you need to work on a team. I think products tend to be better when you work on a team. They tend to be more publishable, if that's the right word to put it, or more shareable with others, like to your parents and brothers and sisters and to future students. But that doesn't mean working on your own, you can't do something that's of high value. A number of the students in IST as a whole are quite brilliant as a whole, and each one of you, I'm reading your work and I'm saying, well, that's publishable. This is something they could use at work. They might take this back to his boss and utilize it. So, the rationale for making this either or, it lets you use it in your work setting if you want to do something, and not have to be reliant on someone else. And plus, people have children and family and busy schedules or other things that they need to do. So that's why, but I encourage you to think about at least working on a team. I don't want to mandate it. And thank you for all those points. You really you helped me not read the syllabus. You've made the points for me, but I'll go back to the syllabus after Sunmei. We'll take a break. So Sunmei, I'm sorry we delayed you a bit here. I wanted to make sure everyone had a voice first. Sunmei, you want to give us your background and what she's our first guest to show us something. I thought we'd start right away with something within the field. Sunmei's been in IST for like 3 or 4 years now, I think 4. And she's working on her dissertation, analyzing data from R622 conversations. She moved from Korea to the US without much English skills, and didn't really know what she wanted to do. When her husband got a job in US as an engineer, she has a job, a background as an engineer, and eventually got into a couple of different organizations. One, a company in Berkeley, Todo Math, I think, and there might be a second software company that she worked for as well. In addition, she worked for my colleague Paul Kim at Stanford, who created a project for literacy, basically, or getting kids to ask questions, children to ask questions of each other, called the Stanford Mobile Inquiry Learning Environment, or what Brandon does, SMILE. It's the SMILE project, Stanford Mobile Inquiry Learning Environments. And Sunmei had much of the ideas for the SMILE project. And so I didn't know that. I didn't know she was the genius behind the project. So I think she's going to talk a bit about SMILE. She'll talk a bit about Todo Math and about she's developing mobile apps for children. And so this is an area that's exploding today, and people are finding they want to work in the high-tech industry, and and our graduates, some of them move out to San Francisco, and like Sunmei is. And so Sunmei, did I get that correct?
So I'm sorry, actually, actually it's really hard to understand, but I think it's mostly correct. And then the first time, actually, my husband went to Stanford as a PhD student, and then just I follow my husband. And then actually at the time I met Kim, and then I got interested in instructional technology. Can you hear me? Can you hear?
So you're fading in and out, or am I fading in and out? Which is it? Both?
You actually. I don't know.
I think Sunmei, I think we're having a hard time catching you, Sunmei, actually.
Your
right? Your
internet's fading, Sunmei.
Oh, I don't know. I try, but I don't know. Actually, I turn off other devices right now. That's because I really focus on only this laptop. But I don't know. Can you hear me right now? It's okay?
If it fades out again, we'll take a short break and come back. So that's what we'll do. But let's try it right now. Let's go ahead. It sounds better.
Sounds better. Okay. So anyway, I started as a volunteer developer with Kim, and then I developed multiple projects. One of that in SMILE. State University. I majored in instructional technology for a master's degree, and after graduation, I joined the education startup company named Enuma, And then I mainly worked on total mass, and then I will talk about that. I joined the Stanford as a mobile application developer. So nowadays, actually, I'm working with a lot of professor and PhD student and postdoc, and then just across the department, they really want to develop some mobile application to use for, educate, assess the learning. So for their research project. So I'm working in. So my third app is actually about the right now I'm working on. So can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah. And you also worked in robotics, I think, right?
No, actually, before I was, software engineer. So usually at the time I developed some, platform for, microchip engineer. So it's a little bit different. At the time, it was kind of back end. But right, I'm a programmer, so I'm developing mobile apps. But actually, my apps mostly related to education. So this time, I brought 3 different projects, and then they are a little bit different types of project. So first one is actually focused on re-environment, and then we created some application, actually some systems. So actually server side and then client side in the whole system. And then we started this project around 12 or 13 years ago, and then ongoing project. And second, but actually these apps are based on the California Common Core standard. It's actually we studied a lot educational theory and then brought that theory into the practical application. So it is still ongoing app store, but I don't work for this company anymore. And then third one is right now I'm working on, but actually I developed a lot of mobile apps, but that one is kind of related to the education, especially actually one professor came and then she really wants to us with that idea. So let me talk about the third, the later. Okay, can you hear?
Yeah, so Sunde, a couple of students were in 622 last semester, and they heard you speak in there. Is some of what you're presenting today, is any of these different from 622 last semester?
It's similar. That's because that one is actually my research project, and then I wrote the paper, and then I, gave a presentation in multiple conference and workshop something. But second one is actually last time I just talked about my research project, but this time actually I focused on the 4 mini games I developed at the time. So actually more, actually around 10, but right now it just to come up with the 4 games and then how to implement the educational theory into the mini game. And then third one is right now I'm working on. Actually that project I started 3 years ago. About the cross-platform mobile application. So originally is iOS-based, application, but that professor really want to extend it to the phone. So we decided to make that one is cross-platform. So right now it works on Android, and that one is how to use mobile application for supporting, educational research and educational, requirement or something, So I can explain. So maybe the first part is really similar. Bu and Mika, you know that, right? Okay, the first one is SMILE is Stanford Mobile Inquiry-Based Learning Environment. The first time, actually, I, saw my children, and she did work on, her assignment. And then she said that, I don't know, I can do it. I'm done. I have studied. And then I talked to her. What happened, class? I pay attention to my teacher. But after then, she didn't know how to solve that math problem, right? So, oh, what happened? And I thought that. And then I guess that she might receive much knowledge from the teacher in class, right? But after class, and just I actually talked to Perkin. So we have to design the new learning environment. So this environment allows students to review what they learned in class before leaving the classroom. So it's a kind of how to implement that idea into the actual classroom. So I record my experience. When I was in elementary school at the time, I really want to get higher score. At the same time, I really want to play with my friend. So I invited 4 girls to work with the, took one chapter each person and then study, and then we made some question and then we share. And then every student taught their part, and then we can save time, and then we got really higher score. So I, implement that is students are asked to make a question after the class. So teacher teach some concept, and after that, they don't leave the classroom. They just sit down, and they are required to make one question based on what they learn. Teacher just manage everything using activity manager. That's because at the time we didn't use internet. That's because we don't want students get distracted from internet, right? So we use the Bluetooth, just a local, wireless router. So all students smile to each other and then to activity manager. So teacher just to manage every system. So there are 3 different steps. The first step is make a question. Second step, serve the question. Third step is see the result, something like that. So I can explain. So actually the activity manager is, Java application based on desktop or laptop something. At that time, all students are connected to the Bluetooth, but they can use any internet. And then they only see the just 3 disabled. And then first, teacher click the send notification, and then students button will be activated. And then they can create their own question. And after that, they send their created question to the activity manager. At the time, teacher review the quickly to all collected question to each devices. And students serve that question, and then they send the answer to the activity manager, and then real time, they can show the result, something like that. So it took only 25 or 30 minutes. Usually we had multiple classrooms. So usually it took 25 or 30 minutes. So total 60 minute classroom, it works. So something like that. The second, screenshot shows that only there are 3 buttons. So they can click anything, just wait, and then every activity, so it's really good for actually young students. That's because they are easily get from the learning, but that one is actually they have to pay attention to them. And then one more thing, actually at that time we added higher, you think that this class is really good rating, and then later they can show the highest student with the highest score. And interestingly, it motivated the students to make more, questions. That's interesting. The first time we asked that, just one question, but later students 3. So that's really interesting. And then we found out that actually this system is easily implemented in any types of learning setting. And also students quickly adopted this system. Actually, we didn't explain a lot, just show that. And then actually we spent some time with the teacher. She needed time to understand how to use the activity manager. So first or second pilot test at the time, I just did that. That's because she didn't do that. And then actually we found out that this system promotes the students problems, and then they solve the problems. The problem thinking and critical thinking is that actually they review other students' problems, and then they can give some feedback, something. And then by providing inquiry and collaborative learning environment. That's really interesting. Actually, we took the picture of the student. They're really happy to share their own, questions. So that's really interesting. I don't want to do this one this time. And then second one is actually total math. I joined the,
Sune,
yes?
Jennifer has a question. Jennifer?
Oh, okay.
I was curious about how, so I'm hearing that the students create questions based on the lesson in that same moment, that same hour before leaving the class, and then they work on each other's questions. How does the teacher, or how do they know they've arrived at a right answer? Are they submitting the answers along with the questions they create, or is it sort of crowdsourced, or is there a live debriefing? How does the teacher handle any misinformation or give them some feedback on that?
I'm sorry that I can't hear you. So can you one more time? You said that how to.
I put the question in the chat as well, but I was interested.
Oh yeah, that's good. That's good.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Doesn't help.
I taught high school for a long time, and so I'm very interested in what you were saying about the students creating their own questions. I've found that to be very effective, but I was just wondering how you handled answers within the app, or some sort of feedback, giving them this idea that they've gotten the correct answer, or are they creating the answers at the same time they create the questions?
For sending to the student, there are wrong information at the time. They can choose the questions.
Sune, you might have to turn your video off. Your video, you might want to turn the video stream off. It might help with the streaming.
Okay. Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so can you understand what I said? Actually, teachers can review all the collected captions before sending them to each device, each student. So if there is misinformation question, that's because it's a really, real-time activity. So actually, that's because we really want to, just finish everything before leaving the classroom. So those students created based on the textbook or just what they listened, heard, learned in class. So usually, from my test, actually, there is no wrong answer, but your question is really good. I think that's possible. But at this, and then send send the, good question, send the question with the correct answer. So that's the way.
So Nate, let me add some comments here. So Paul Kim has been working across the world. He's worked with blind children in India, blind children in the Dominican Republic using Braille screen readers. He's created the Pocket School Project, a teacher in your pocket. If you got my book, The World is Open, which came out 12 or so years ago, I interviewed Paul for part of this book. He's trying to help ramp up kids who don't necessarily have schools or teachers anywhere, like in Honduras, migrant workers in Honduras and Guatemala, Mexico. And he's giving them the resources on their, in the old days, these are an MP3 player. Now it's changed a bit. He's trying to create ways to get the technology recharged using bicycles, powered recharging units. He's doing all sorts of innovative things. He's been in India, in Thailand, in, as I said, Mexico, Rwanda. He's been, and my son went with him to Tanzania, and the server broke the first day. They had to get use a backup server they brought with them and get a power generator just to get, electricity into the room that they were teaching these kids with. But really, the focus is getting kids to ask higher levels of questions and getting them to think about what is a different level of questioning. And then he's now built a tool that has AI behind it, and you can download. This tool is free for anyone to download and use in their classrooms. That's the fun thing about the Smile project. I think it's called Smile. What is it? Smile Go or Smile Us? Smile Me, something like that. Anyhow, he's created this new app with AI behind it. So the AI behind it, things can evaluate things from 5 different levels of Bloom's taxonomy, not all 6 levels, but again at 5 different levels. And so you can pose a question to so kids can challenge themselves to higher levels of questions, and the AI behind it will evaluate the levels of questions that are being asked. So it becomes a competition, a way to get inquiry-based learning environment embedded in the schools through question asking behaviors. So that's pretty cool. So the focus is asking questions, it's on generating something instead of just passively receiving or responding to a teacher questions. You're getting kids involved in rating questions, generating questions, competing about questions. And these are first grade students in Korea, or second graders, or 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and all the way to college level students that can work with too, actually. So the Smile project works across the School of Ed and with engineering, computer science, and other people, and they had a major grant for this. So a little background info, you can look some of this up. I've got a couple of papers Paul has written on this. If you'd like, he worked with Israeli kids and Palestinian kids in the Middle East. So he won awards for some of that stuff. So anyways, Bo and Mika, I hope you weren't bored. You heard some of that last semester, but this is an exciting project, and I think it's important. So Sunne, or any other questions before we move on to part 2?
And what was Paul's last name? I didn't catch it.
Or Kim.
Kim. There are
Kim.
parks. There are parks in Korea. There are Kims in Korea. There are Lees, and there's a 4th one. I forget what. There are 4 different main names, and Kim is one of the main names. Okay, Sunmei, part 2.
Oh, it's really hard to, I don't know this time, my internet didn't work well. So it's really hard. You guys, really frozen, open.
It's
so,
better.
I'm just talking to myself.
No, it's better now, Sunmei.
Oh, better now. Okay, that's great. Yeah. The second one is actually commercial apps. So you can download from, Apple App Store and Play Store. Name is Total Math. But it's really different. That's because the first stage actually we studied educational theory. So in the first place, a lot of education background researchers, actually content designer, and then, graphic designer and programmer worked together. So it was really, good application, I think. And then Total Math is kind of the suite of covering pre-K to 2nd grade. So the first time actually we came up with this idea, that's because many kids don't like math. So already they cry for math, but already they like a game. So we figure out smile. Oh, that's a smile. But anyway, so actually we developed to math, but that's okay. And the interesting point is that actually this is just to mobile application, mobile math games for children, but they are really different. That's because behind. So this app provides 4 different features. The first one is daily, free choice, mission, and monster collection. The first one is daily. Actually, these games is created based on California Standard Common Core standard. One concept, and then daily adventure usually 7 or 8 games to covering the some concept, for example counting, for example, and then level A covers counting. So students actually children play the different game, but game. So that's it. Actually, it's based on game based. That's because main developer is actual NCSoft game developer, and he brought this idea. And the second one is free choice, and then we develop many math games. So for example, first category is counting and cardinality. So right now it's around 20 something games. And then each game is aligned with the one concept of common core, but actually several games cover the same topic. So it means play the different game, but actually learning same concept. So it's really good. That's because usually we teach math, they are bored. That's because the same thing. But that one is actually game, and then different games. So they play the different games, but naturally they learn the concept. And third one is mission. So it's just like a game, right? So actually there is a character, but actually they don't have any gender. And then they master each step and finally find the treasure box. And then they got the key, I think. Also align with the common core. And then last one is interesting is that actually I work on this feature the last time, before leaving this company. Actually, we, published that ad, and then it was really popular. We didn't know how to improve students, children's learning. So we decided to, implement some assessment feature. So that one is assessment feature. So each monster is aligned with the one concept of common core. One concept, the one card is activated, and children are requested, asked to capture that monster. So it's really game. So children really like it. That's because they think that, oh, I can, catch the monster, but actually they, actually testing. So I like that monster, but actually I didn't capture that screen. That's because right now it's in-app purchase, so I have to purchase. So just that one. And then I brought 4 different games. Actually, I programmed all games, and then I explained. The first one is Matrix. It's really interesting. That's behind 2 objects. So the first one is actually cat and pig and purple door. At the time combine, and then correct answer is that cat and purple door, something like that. And then they can practice. And later, the first one is object, later on is kind of, finally they learned how to, multiply 2 number later. The first object is just a cute object, and they, easily and playfully, play the game, and then naturally to the, number. Yeah. The second one is actually what the problem really cute. That's because I found out that many students don't like word problem. That's because it's really hard. So we created that game, and then actually every character enter the grocery shopping, and then just they said that give me a watermelon. At the time, students object to the cart, and then finally they have to pay for that one. So it's really interesting in a lot of animation. And third one is keep the change, actually real images, but not real image. Actually, designer drew the just like a real image. And then every time just to share, and students actually grab and then drag to the right, bank. There's a penny, nickel, dime, a quarter. So teach you how to calculate the, chain. It's good. And the last one is I really like this one. That's because it's the kind of addition and then number line. The top word is addition. So 2 plus something equal 5. And then bottom part is number line, actually 2 blocks, right? And then yellow arrow is pointed 5. So we need 3, right? At that time, we perfect block and then light it up. So it's really just like a game. So children actually can recognize this is a math learning. They really like it. That's because a lot of animation, sound, and reaction. So I like this one. And then actually these games at the real kindergarten classroom. And then I did research. At that time, we got really great result. That's because at that time there was one student, one kid with a special needs. Actually, teacher actually he didn't study by himself. That's because always they needed some help. But actually with this application, actually he played by himself all day long, whole 1 hour he played by himself. Even after finishing the assignment, go to the next game. So I think that maybe we can use the math games or game-based mobile application for supporting some students with special needs. And the last one is need to assess the children's learning. But problem is that children don't pay attention to the reading material. Just they playing. They are so young. That's because 5 or 6 year children. So they played. So actually they play, and at the same time they learning. So she really want to assess the children's learning. So we came up with this idea. So this app actually designed to assess the children's learning. So we came up with 5 mini games to evaluate below the children's motivation, effort, and self-regulation. So we added a lot of features. So researcher just to create the new task set by combining games and changing settings. So that one is one example. So one game is a driving game. At that time, just the researcher changed the setting. So every time, so hold the button game and press button and build the load and then change and test it. So they can, continuously collect data from the, children. So now they are testing this app in multi, and then one is, I don't know, the far away. That's because actually I did localization into 4 different languages: English, Spanish, French, country, at least 4 different country. So the first game is a driving game. So driving game is there are actually three types of game, but right now it's 2 game. So example, the first one is click the start button and then just the red car move and then finish the line. But problem is that there are 3 different vehicle. The first one is red car, it's fastest. And the second one is a truck, medium. And then third one is bus, it's really slow. So actually just wait. And the second one is actually hold the button. It's really hard for young children. That's because they have to hold the button. The car finish the line. And then as for the bus, it's really, really slow. Even I can do that. That's because it takes really a lot of time. So actually children have to that car finish. And then third one is easy one. Actually, it looks like a puzzle, but actually that car don't move. That's because, road is missing, right? So actually children have to put the piece into the right puzzle and then just let the car go. So something like that. And then second one is a puzzle game. So actually we showed some, line puzzle, and then you can see the, green button at the center, right? And then start the green button and then trace the line. But you have to finish the whole line and then just did. But option is that actually there are some insolvable, question set, and students have to decide that, oh, I can solve that one. At that time, just click the X button. So it's really difficult for young students. So already they just try to trace, but never ending. But actually they have to decide, oh, I can solve this question. So it's really hard. So usually for young students, usually we recommended the easy level. So I can provide some gauge level. So easy actually decided which one let that students solve that question, something like that. That's it. Yes, I don't want to talk a lot of things about mobile application, but there are multiple ways to use the mobile apps for education. So if you have any questions, just ask me.
And I have
I had a question.
slides, so I can put the slides into Dropbox. I'll show you Dropbox after we take a quick break. Someone had Nick, you had a question?
Yeah, so the stuff that you're talking about is a kind of stuff that got me really excited about this and interested in doing IST. But I guess going into it, I'm worried because I don't have the kind of technical background that you seem to have had doing programming and stuff like that. I just have a teaching background. So is there anything that you would recommend as I'm going into this, if this is something that I would like to do after I finish this program, that I maybe should be studying along the way or looking out for opportunities to do?
So do you want to learn the technology? It means that
I guess that's maybe what I'm trying to figure out is like,
is
I
really
really like the ideas going into what you're doing, and I don't even have enough of a background
right.
in computers to say whether the programming part is what I'm interested in. But I guess if I wanted to get into that kind of development and design process for these things, would you recommend I still study that?
Actually, you can do it after, just finish this course. You can join design part. Actually, I can program, but most of the students, they just work on the designing the concept, right?
Right.
At that time, fully understand and technology and education. Right now, I'm working with my UI UX designer, and she really understand education. So that's really good. So usually, actually to make a mobile application, we need some specific, detail for, you know? So right now, just I show the screenshot, oh, it's easy, but actually I have to design each point, you know, even I touch that point, and then there are multiple types of touch event. So to understand the programming, but just to you understand how it works, right? So you can work in this field. So many people are doing that. Yeah. So I highly recommend after that maybe UI, UX designer or just the design concepting, you know, related courses. Actually, Udemy, LinkedIn, you know, they provide a lot of real resources, you know, really good for teaching that one how to design mobile, you know, mobile app. So not programming, just design, you know.
Just design,
so you
okay.
can draw, you know. So I have a I have some concept. You can draw how this app, and then that's it. That's really great. Yeah. So you can do it.
So
but if you want, I think you can learn programming as well. I think. Yeah.
Sune, why don't you stop the share here? So, you know, and maybe you can turn your video back on. You're a little bit better. It's still in and out. And so I'll postpone that next question is exactly the type of question I want. That the reason I'm bringing different people in. I want people to ask that question. So what I'd like you to do, Sune, is tell us what your job is. What is your title? If you have a title.
My job title is not related to education. Mobile application developer, but actually I'm working for graduate school of education. So it's a little bit related to education. But, you know, good thing is that my background is, you know, education, I can work. And then especially my client really like it. That's because I'm a little bit different from normal programmer. That's because usually programmers don't know about education, but I fully understand, right? So always I recommend, oh, that's not good. So what about this way, you know? So always I provide some alternatives to make it happen. You know, problem is that always a professor come up with a really great idea. They think that it's really easy in programming, but actually usually vice versa. You know, you think that it's really easy for a person, it's really hard for people think that it's really difficult. Actually, it's really easy for programming. So usually vice versa. Yeah, but they don't understand that one the first time. So I had a hard time, but nowadays, you know, it's okay. I can explain and then I can provide some alternative. Oh, you can do it this way. And then we can get, you know, we can achieve that, you know, purpose anyway. And then they really like it. And every time they, you know, send a lot of questions to me directly, actually not, you know, usually there is some person, contact person, but I don't know me and ask me. Maybe I'm connected to internet, maybe.
Sune, so if you look at the syllabus on the 7th page, you'll see that the first 7 weeks, we have 10 different people coming in that will basically be mostly younger people who've been moved into the field. Only one person, the third on week 3, Cheryl Murphy, who was my first master's student. She's the vice provost at the University of Arkansas. She's the director of online or distance ed, or the provost for that. So we're going to hear from people who are really in the trenches doing things with this field the first 7 weeks. The next 3 weeks, we'll hear from people who've authored books in the field. And the week after that, we'll end with John Graves, who's done stuff in the corporate training environment, who was my first doctoral student at Indiana. So the reason it's so Sune is different from all the rest because she's a mobile app developer. I don't think any of the rest of them are mobile app developers. We'll hear more from instructional designers during the next few weeks. So just keep that in mind. The reason I brought her in, because she's been in this class as a TA and she knows what to recommend and what this class is about. Many of the people coming in the next few weeks have also had this class or a class like this. They are alums of IST. Next week are 2 alums of IST. We have a master's alum Ling Qian and Zihang Xiao is my doctoral student, just finished last May. So, and week 4, Nathalie and Yua Ma are current students, EDD student and current master's student. And Renee Hong is a current doctoral PhD student from Language Ed coming in after that. Mengwan Zhao is a current EDD doctoral student. And then Remzi and Özgür are both students from Turkey. They got their PhDs in the program a few years ago, and they're both instructional designers. So they didn't go the faculty route. They went and got a PhD and decided not to go faculty and go into instructional design and services and consulting and things like that. So we'll hear different stories with different people who have graduated within IST or in a related field during these opening weeks. And I just want exposure. I want you to get exposed. So this is an intro class. Other questions before we go to break? Anything else for Sunmei or comments about the 3 tools she showed? Anything? Jennifer? Looked like you had something there.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to an extension of Nick's question, like what programming languages to use. If you said that already, I didn't quite catch it.
What kind of programming languages?
Yes, to the apps that
Is
you
it correct?
showed us, how did you create them?
Actually, I used multiple ones. That's because every time it changed and, brand new programming languages came out. The first one is the first time I used the Android Java and for Android mobile application. And then I moved to iOS. And the first time Objective-C and after then Swift. And right now is Flutter. So for cross-platform. So actually multiple programming languages, programmer always they recasted new languages. So every time I have to learn. So Flutter is kind of new for me. And then already passed the 2 years or 3 years. Okay.
I think what
Yeah.
Sunmi was saying is that you can pick up UX design or user experience design
Yeah.
from courses in Udemy, which is in the South Market District of San Francisco, or Coursera, or LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So IST does not, I don't think we have a course in user design or UX design, but I wouldn't be surprised if we don't create one pretty soon, because most universities are starting to offer that in their learning design and technology programs. I know Wayne State has a course in user design or UX design. So it's the next thing that I would guess is going to be coming. We're currently hiring someone or going to be interviewing a couple people in 2 weeks. And I have a feeling they'll be in that area. Bull.
Dr. Bonk, this is just a resource for some of the individuals in the course who are brand new to the IST program. Through Indiana University, you do have access to LinkedIn Learning for free. So it's just a great resource, but it took a semester or 2 before I realized that was something that was available to us.
That's
This university is amazing sometimes. I mean, it's amazing in its beauty, really, and the architecture, but also in the technology resources. It often is ranked 20 years ago as the most wired university, and it's the most wireless university. It's been known for faculty development with technology, and our current dean was the vice president of learning technologies, and she's a good friend of mine, Dr. Stacy Maroney. So, we're currently remodeling the library. It'll be finished next month and have a grand opening, and is very technology wired. So India is always pushing in the area of learning technologies, and IST is one of the leading programs in the country for that. So I wouldn't be surprised if we start creating courses or offering courses in user experience design in the not too distant future. But because there are openings this semester, in fact, Nick, if you want to spend a week and eliminate any of the readings for a week and focus on user experience design, because this is an intro course, you can just write me an email, say, this is what I'm going to read and reflect on my blog this week. And you can do that, so, or you could interview Sunmei about her job for one of your assignments. That, or or two people, Sunmei and another person like Sunmei, and compare and contrast what their job responsibilities are, or what their backgrounds are, you know, what education they had to get to the point that you want to be at. So I make it open in that regard for anyone. Other comments or questions? Michelle, you'll have a quizzitive look.
I'm just processing everything.
That's good. Xiaoying? Xiaoying?
I'm here.
Yeah. You have any comments before we go to break?
No.
Okay. Anyone final words? Let's say a thank you to Sunmei. Just give her 3 words in the chat window of what you learned from Sunmei. And I am going to pause this right now. Let's see if I can find the pause button. I saw it earlier. So Zoom recording. So I'm resuming the recording. I know there are a couple of people still getting their tea or orange juice or other forms of nourishment and some chocolates and whatnot. But before I go back through the syllabus, any comments so far or questions, observations, discussion items? I want to thank you all for coming tonight. I will point out again on page 3 of the syllabus, it lays out the tasks that are in this class and how many points and due dates. There is a grace period. That grace period changes every semester. Sometimes I have a 2-day grace period, sometimes a 1-day, sometimes a 4-day. I see in here a 5-day lateness policy. So that's 120 hour, which means if things were due on a Monday night at midnight, you know, we got Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It would be actually Saturday night at midnight. You could turn it in by and be fine. Okay. So that's sometimes I don't know why I picked 5 days. I just experiment with different days. I think it's because of the way things were actually due. And so it's due April 3rd, but you have all the way till April 8th, I guess, to turn in your final assignments, which should be plenty of time. I also noticed there's a blog reflection. So there are 2 things due at midterm, 2 things at the final, and a 5th item is your blog reflection paper, which is April 17th with a 5-day grace period. That's April 22nd or so. I think in part I was making a logistical move there in trying to see whether or not I think we can get everything graded by the end of May. So I have, or by the end of April, I'm sorry, by the end of April. So if you turn in on April 22nd, I have a week to grade things and get them all in by the end of April, get grades all in. I think their grades are due around then or early May or something like that. So that's part of the logistics in here. Some things are worth 30 points, some things are worth 40 points. I do use rubrics. I do kind of have this, and I have in Dropbox, and I can show you Dropbox. Let's see if I can screen share here a bit. If I can find Dropbox, let's show all windows. And hang on. This is never easy to find right away here. And of course, I'm not going to find it. Darn it. Well, I should have probably checked. Let's see here. I'm going to have, the only way I'm going to do this here, let's see if I can find my home page. Okay, let's see if this helps. Let me try and share again and see if my home page comes up somewhere in here. There it is. Okay, so y'all see my home page. If you can't find the syllabi in this class or any of my classes, if you scroll below my picture there, it has my syllabi for various classes, including this one. And you can find other things, including my free books are listed in here. You see the free book there on the left-hand side, Motivating Online Learners. You also have the Tech Variety book and other things. If you click on R511 for the spring, you will see what comes up there. We do have a Padlet for this class. And so there are introductions in Padlet that you can make. And some of you have. Bo filled it in, I filled in, Nicholas, Matt, Michelle, Kristen, Morgan. Thank you all for filling the Padlet in. I think there might be more than that, but just, you can read these after class. I'll read those as well. We'll do other Padlets. I'm thinking that I might add a third TA to this class. I might try and get Christian Smeltzer, my EDD doctoral student. He's been the TA in this class before, but because the two TAs in here have class conflicts right now, I think I might get a third TA here to help get the Padlets and other things for class. Anyways, if you go to the top here, you'll see a link to the Zoom. So if you have the syllabus, you have the link to the Zoom, you have the link to Canvas, you have a link to Dropbox, you have a link to Padlet, you have a link to the emails of my TAs, Kongwei and Catherine or Kate. If you click on the Dropbox link, which is right there, you'll see in Dropbox that I've got the articles and chapters of guest speakers. So if they've written a book chapter and shared it, those will be there. The readings for every week will also be there. So you can get by alphabetic order, Professor Bowling's article that we're going to read, my articles that are listed in here. Saul Carliner, who was a guest last time I taught this course, is in there. He's a human performance technology specialist. Betty Collis, who has an article for week 2, and one I recommend on flexible learning. She almost became an IST professor 20 years ago. I took her to the IU basketball game to try and get her and her husband to come here, but they stayed in the Netherlands. They didn't come here. I don't know why. John Dewey, you'll see his Pedagogy Creed in there, in 2 versions of it, actually. You'll see my friend Marcy Driscoll, the former dean of Florida State, who has a book on instructional psychology foundations, learning and instruction, actually. Tim Newby at Purdue, comparing behaviorism, cognitivism, and constructivism. Got Scott Grevinger from University of Colorado, Denver, recently retired. 2 years ago, I had a lot of people who are just about to retire who did retire. And I think the students in here wanted more younger people. So I've moved to having this course have more younger speakers talking about current directions in the field, not a lot of the old timers pointing out what happened in history. I used to focus more on the history of the field. Now I focus more on the current jobs within the field. But we have some balance. We have 3 big name people in weeks 9, 10, 11 coming in here. Jan Harrington on authentic learning, my good friend from Australia. David Jonathan, a constructivist, unfortunately passed away a decade ago. There's Dr. Cosma. I told you Clark and Cosma is a famous debate we used to have. IST dissertation questions on. The qualifying exam question was comparing Bob Cosma, Robert Cosma's article, and Richard Clark's article on the influence on media on learning. They debated this, and we would have that as a qualifying exam question. So Cosma believes that media does have an impact on learning. Clark does not. And it's been framed in IST for 30, 40 years. It's been the debate issue. So to have Dr. Cosma come in and volunteer he asked me if he could come in to visit with us. That's really cool. He's really, really well known. Laven Wanger, very well-known article about situated learning, which if you're in learning sciences, Dr. Hickey talks about a lot, and all the learning science people do. You see Bonk and Denon and Martin. It's a recent special issue we did. Vanessa Denon is at Florida State. She's an alum of IST and one of my former students. Same with Justin Whiting and Seth Martinez. They were also guests in this class. So you see a lot. Dr. Melenda, who created this class, many articles from him in there. You see Dr. Reeser, whose book I mentioned you should buy or get access to or download from Florida State. Albert Ritzhoff from University of Florida was a guest in here 1 or 2 years ago. A younger guy, very published in the area of competencies and skills needed. What skills do you need? What jobs exist? Just what I was talking about earlier. John Savory, an alum of IST, well known for problem-based learning with a former faculty in IST, Dr. Tom Duffy. So there's a lot of stuff in here to read this semester as I scroll through some of this. So let me go back. So also in here are free books. So you'll see many books that I mentioned earlier. The Issues in Technologies book by Ali Carr, the dean at Dayton, her book's in here. Dr. Melinda's Ed Tech Definitions book in here. Dr. Reeser's book is in here too. So you'll find all that in Dropbox. You'll find that and more in Dropbox. You'll also find my PowerPoint slides. Now, these are slides I've had from last semester. I just copied and pasted and put them in there. They might change a bit, or probably will change a little bit, but not much. Learning theories don't change rapidly over time. So they're, it's not statistics, which never changes really, but so you'll see all my slides in there, and you can download them and see what we'll be addressing in this class in different weeks. And again, I'll update that. Also the course roster. So if you want to know people's email addresses, I'll have the course when they get finalized, I'll have a Word document with everyone. In fact, I already have a Word document. It's on the desktop that fried. Hopefully I'll find that. Again, so you also see what's real important here. You'll see the guest speakers' bios potentially. We got more free books. So here are more free books in the field that I've gotten a hold of somehow and have made them available to you. There's a big push in this field to make free resources for people. And so you'll see these different ones. I don't want to pull it. Oh, Dr. Tyagi. So Dr. Sivasalam Tijarajaran, he goes by Tyagi, was a guest last year. He's about 150 years old. He's still working, and he's an alum of our program. He's a lovely person. He lives about 3 miles from my house, maybe a little more, over in Unionville. Some of you know our Bloomington, so he's up in Unionville. He donated his new book called Lola. It's about learning activities design, mostly used in corporate training, but most of his ideas can be used anywhere. So I'd highly recommend you download his book since he donated it to our class. He's a brilliant guy. He comes up with one new game a day. And he's from India originally. He was a magician in India. He's a very interesting person. So anyways, I'll pull out that book to mention that book. Let me see if I want to mention any other ones. No, there's one by Michael Spector. So Michael Spector, Handbook of Research, that one you might want to get from 2014. Michael Spector was the chair at the University of North Texas. He was at Florida State for a while, at the University of Georgia for a while. He's been around. He's very well known. He was a guest in my 622 class last fall. And you might want to look at the handbook. So that's that. And then if we scroll down a little more, you go to task examples. So if you're nervous, Jennifer, or if you're nervous, Michelle, about the task, you can go and get examples of task 3. What is it? So here's some, I put no names on them, so I've taken the names off. Most of them are good quality examples. They're examples on the high end, or at least acceptable articles. And so you can take a look at what's the midterm, what the final exam. Now, not every assignment is downloadable. Some people do multimedia documents. And so in the syllabus, I've put links to those documents. They're not in Word document format or a PDF. They're, so anything that people might have created a website or might have created a YouTube channel or a podcast show, those wouldn't be in the task examples, okay? So just pointing that out. The papers though, so if you want task 5 examples, here you'll see a bunch of task 5 examples. Book review, if you're not sure what a synchronous guest reflection is, or a comparison and contrast paper or whatever, there are examples in there. So I think that's one of the most important things I can show you, because that will reduce your stress, because you'll have examples to look at, and you won't have to just rely on the syllabus and my recommendations as to what you could do. You can actually look at assignments. The other thing you might find interesting is the rubrics. So there are 4, task 2, task 3, task 4, task 5. And you can see what dimensions I'm looking for when I assess those particular assignments. So if you decide to do a book review, you can see task 5B, book review rubric, how I will assess that, okay? Now, I think those rubrics are pretty good, but I cannot claim ownership over all of them. I stole them from other faculty, and I revamped them, and I updated them, and I created some of my own. So all these, we all build on the shoulders of somebody else. The course has been built a long time ago. I just updated it. This course used to have Dr. Melinda and Dr. Pershing, who are now retired. They created video scripts. They created tutorials. They created a history of the field. We used that for about a decade after they retired, but I find that it's too old to be using anymore. So I've deleted those archival information, if you will. But, you know, there is a blog reflection rubric, a theory comparison rubric. You'll find that in here. Also in Dropbox, you'll find the syllabus. So if you need the, now it's not in there. I think I deleted the syllabus. Yeah, because again, I'm going to upload it once I finalize everything in the syllabus. So that's, let's see if here we'll come back. I want to go to Canvas next. Come on. I'm trying to get there. Let's see here. Nope, we don't want to go that way. Let's see. Okay, now Canvas. So in Canvas, you can find announcements, of course. I'm assuming most of you explored Canvas. You'll have the syllabus will be in Canvas, both in PDF and Word. You have the assignments in here, explanations, and then there's a Dropbox within the assignments. Now, if you've taken a class with me before, you know that I don't like Canvas Dropbox, but we're using it anyways. The problem with Canvas Dropbox, it doesn't have a time date stamp on it. So when I download your papers, I have to keep downloading until I get all of them. And I have to access all the papers. So unlike the old system at IU called OnCourse, which some of you may be familiar with, it's Canvas. Okay, so if I click on blog reflections, it'll give a description of the task, how many points, and then you can go in there and actually, I can download your papers or you can go and take a look at your papers. So it has each assignment in there. We're not using the discussions because we're doing blogging. In Cultura Media Gallery, each week, the recording from this class will be in here. You'll be able to get the recordings. At least that's the goal. And then you can also look at the students in this class and get their emails. And there's a photo gallery of everybody in here so you can get to know people a little bit. And then there's a grade book in here, which I will try and fill out fairly rapidly or promptly if I can. So you can also have the grade book that shows up in here. There's a name coach. If I'm not pronouncing your name correctly, you can go to name coach, and for a couple, 20 seconds or 10 seconds, you can pronounce how you want your name to sound. There's also a chat tool if we needed to use it, and a collaboration tool if we needed to use it. So that's a couple of things on that. Trying to. There we go. Now, what else do I need to show you for 511? So I've shown you Canvas, I've shown you Dropbox. Oh, the syllabus. So the syllabus itself, we have the objectives in the class for what I think are, and then the schedule. And then you also notice when the tasks are due. It says the due, but you also have 5-day grace period in there. Now those dates are listed as a Tuesday. I'm hopeful that the times work because I've gotten the guests to agree to these times. But does anyone want to suggest that we meet a little bit later or a little bit earlier on a Tuesday? Does anyone have, in my other class, we start at 6 o'clock as opposed to 7 o'clock in here. For some people, they have children to put to bed and other things. That's where James had to go. Does anyone want to
I had a
raise?
question.
Yeah.
You just said Tuesday, and I noticed that was listed once.
Oh, Monday. I'm sorry, Monday.
Okay.
So my other class is Tuesday. I do that all, Freudian slip.
Gotcha. And then roughly how long are these Monday sessions?
Yeah. So normally we'll have a guest for about an hour, and we'll take a break, and then we'll have a lecturette for about 45 minutes. So there'll probably be, with the lectures and the break, about 2 hours. Does that help? And again, these are optional. They'll be recorded. They'll go to Dropbox. You can watch them on your own. I'm trying to, compensate for a lack of face-to-face time with these synchronous sessions. Last semester or last year, I recorded all the guests, so the guests are available on a playlist, and you can watch that playlist and reflect on them as one of your assignments. So you can watch the pre-recordings that are already there. I think they're listed in here, actually. So if we scroll through here, I've already gone through that. So these are all the people from fall of 2021, about a year and a half ago. We had 17 sessions, 18 guests, and have all the links there. But the link at the top is a playlist of the whole class, all the sessions from that semester. So if you click on that, these are all the people that we brought in, including a very famous guy named Richard Mayers, the most famous educational psychologist maybe in the world. He joined us. But that semester, we had a lot of old timers. My friend Tom Rees from Georgia. I mentioned Brent Wilson from Denver, Scott Grabinger from University of Colorado, Denver, and so forth. Tim Newby from Purdue, Punya Mishra from Arizona State. So we had all these people come in, and that's all saved. So, if you're interested in watching that instead of this, what I bring in, you could just follow along with, those people there. They're all there. These are the people for this semester. And as I said, the first 7 weeks in here are really, the majority are people who recently graduated or currently are students. And I think next week's really important because Zihong and Ling are going to talk about what instructional designers do in higher education spaces. And people found their presentation last semester to be real valuable. So valuable, we had brought Zihong in a second time. She came back. And so I think that would be really good. Mangwan Zhao, my current student, she was so good last year, I brought her back again. So yeah, I think there are a couple people I've had in here before, 3 people. Some people I've never had before. I try not to bring people back too much. I try and bring only new people in. And so, yeah, so that's the outline. And then you've got the blogs. So this week, if you could share with me if you could create a blog and share with me the link to the blog, I will create a team listing and get that all organized. And it says in here a length of posts, a minimum of 125 words per post. I will have 3, 4, or 5 people in every team. You'll give people on your team feedback to at least 3 team members by Saturday every week. So that's kind of a logistical thing. If you're late by a day, it's okay. I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna monitor that by a daily basis. So don't get petrified if you're at a conference for a few days or on family vacation. That's kind of all these are guides. I don't think there's a single thing in here that if you forget or miss, it'll be a problem for your grade will be, terribly downgraded or something like that. These are meant to be guides for you. Now, the first task 3, option A, designing a learning theories matrix and explanation. This is something previous faculty in IST used. And so I decided to keep using it. And it gives you a good summary. It's a good task. It's a really healthy task for your brain. It kind of what Sunmei said about understanding what ed tech is, what instructional tech is. This does too. This helps your brain to work better, I think. Designing a learning theories matrix and explanation guide. The second one, if you want to go into depth on a person and understand a person. Now, AECT, the Association for Educational Communications and Technology, has what they've created a Legends and Legacy videos. That means basically they've interviewed old people in the field and made it available to you. So if you click on this link, I hope this works, you will get to the ACT Legends and Legacy. There's Marcy Driscoll, I mentioned her earlier. Ivor Davies, former Malcolm Fleming, both of us are IU faculty emeritus. David Johnson, other folks. ACT is in a good job of creating a historical record of the field. My Silver Lining for Learning podcast shows more of a current record within the field. So you could do a task 3B, an expert profile, by watching those videos and going to their website and maybe interviewing the person if they're still alive. An extended book reading and analysis, going beyond the readings, reading more in depth into the Bob Reeser's book or other books. Task 4, creating a video script for an issue or trend. This is a task other faculty included. I find this one fascinating. People do a lot of fun stuff using animation tools like GoAnimate or Powtoon or other things. Video script. Their examples are there if you want to take a look at them. I think that one's really fun task. Task 5, displaying understanding of IT and HPT. This is a task that other professors used, and I decided to keep this task but change it somewhat. I think people find out about the field. Task option B, doing a book review, 5B. All 3 of those books you can download for free. Debate issue books, Ellie Carr's book, looking at the debates in that book. And then task 6, the final task, promotional video or visual material for the field of IST or human performance technology. It's kind of self-explanatory. Basically, you're creating marketing material for the field in that assignment. There are 12 examples. An option to that is creating something useful, maybe in your work setting related to the field, maybe to volunteer for some local organization like the Big Sisters, Big Brothers, the Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, and helping them out with something related to this field. Or watching the Legends and Legacy videos and reflecting on, I forget how many I ask you to watch. Maybe it's 8 of them, 9 of them. Let me see here. I'm at least 5 of those videos. Okay. It used to be more. And silver lining, my silver lining for learning, if you watch 5 of the shows and reflect on them in a 4 to 5 page paper, that could be your final task in here, or a personal choice task. Then the weekly readings, and let me point to just to week 2, and I'll end with that. In week 2, articles 7 and 8 are the new stuff. If it was me, that's what I would read. My friend Terry Anderson, my friend Tom Reeves, both recently retired. Tom Reeves from Georgia, Terry Anderson from Athabasca University in Canada. But previous to that, Betty Collis's article on flexible learning with her husband, Jeff Manoon. I'm going to lecture on that article, Article 6. I will talk a bit in my lecture on Article 3. I think Article 4, what the field did you say you're in, defining and naming the field, probably, if I had to really reflect on it, I'd say maybe Article 4 would be the most important article for the week, maybe. If you know nothing about the field, then Articles 1, 2, and 3 might help give you a grounding within the field. So it's your call. Okay. Let me jump ahead here just to mention a couple of things. We get behaviorism, cognitive theory, and so forth, but it's week 7 on authentic learning and building apprenticeships for students, and week 8 comparing different learning theories. Particular week 7, I think in my mind, I would make week 7 the only required week and let you read whatever you want the other 14 weeks. So in my mind, the most important week is week 7, because that's where we're at. We're at active, participatory, situated types of learning environments, anchoring learning in what students already know and building on that. That being said, I would hope that you learn something from every week in this class. I'm going to stop this now and say, I hope that quick little run through of Dropbox, of Canvas, of my website, and of the syllabus was helpful. Questions for you?
As far as the option, which was it? I forget which task it was. The option for a service project. I guess we would need to talk to you and talk to the people we're helping service beforehand to kind of figure out how that's going to tie in everything that we learn in this course, right? Because I'm already having ideas, but I probably should. I should probably talk to, always run them by you and see about that.
I used to have due dates for when you had to talk to me by, but no one ever abided by them. I literally, I'd say at least 1 month before the assignment is due, run it by me. Maybe half the time, I shouldn't say no, about half the time students would actually run the ideas by me. So now it's an honor system, try and run them by. It would be good practice to run the ideas by me before you decide on something, because there have been moments where I've read something, I said, how does this link in and relate now? Really, how? And they've already done all this work. So
right, that's where I was thinking. I want to make sure it's something that they would need help with, that it's something that was useful to them, but also that it needs to be something that is showing that we know the things that we've learned in the coursework.
Yeah, really. And so a paragraph will do. It doesn't have to be, a 2-page explanation. A paragraph normally will do. Now, the question came in from Melissa, how to submit the location of the blog URL. I will talk to Christian, my former TA, and ask how we did that last semester. I think he created a Google document and had everyone contribute to it. But it might have just been sending to my email. So, hold tight on that for at least, next 12 hours. But then, I will try and get an answer by noon tomorrow for everyone.
I thought I saw a place to submit it in Canvas. I just don't remember if there was a date for when to submit the link.
No, I don't think I have it in Canvas, and it might be my mistake. I maybe should have it, but I don't think I put that in. Yeah, it's my so there are a couple of things. The first week of the semester is always a couple of things that the instructor has to do to refine things, and that's among those couple of things. And again, the unfortunate of me losing my computer, at least temporarily, it might fix it. It kind of gets me stuck, because everything I save on here, I have to then move to there later. So I'm trying to keep it on top of things, but there are a couple things that the syllabus always changes about 8 times by the time we get to week 6 in little ways. There are a couple of links that won't work. There are a couple typos. There'll be some things, but in this case, there'll be that addition of how to upload your blog and what the blog teams are and that kind of thing. Yeah. So I think we have 1 or 2 students adding this class, which right now we're at 16. We'll probably end up with 17 or 18 if we divide about 4 people per group and 1 group of 5. I would guess, but that's my guess. Anything else? Does this look reasonable? I mean, let me add to end. was there an assignment that I was quickly running through that caught your attention that you're thinking you might do? Like a book review or whatever, which task do you think looked interesting to you? You don't have to go into depth, just say 3A, 3B, blah, blah, blah. Anything? Normally, I divide us up into 2 groups and talk about it in breakout groups. I think we need to end for tonight. I think it's been a little long, and so maybe we start with that next time. We'll have you chat about during the past week, what you read in the syllabus, what you think you're going to be working on, and that kind of thing. That'll be one of the things that we do in week 2. How's that?
Really quick.
Yeah.
As far as your past students, what have they said works best for them when it comes to blogging? Because once we go down a certain path of a certain site, we're kind of stuck in a way.
Most people use WordPress, but I seem to recall something called Wix or something like that. Wix, the problem of Wix, they require a password to access oftentimes. And when I go to check on these blogs, I often have to then remember my password. I think WordPress becomes a couple of times I required everyone to use WordPress. It's a little more elegant and a little more refined. Or Blogger from Google is the one I use in my personal blog, and it's very easy to use, but it's very primitive. So there's no one blogging tool I would say out there. And if you got recommendations, does anyone have a tool that they like?
I was going to ask, would Padlet work? I saw that we had used that for our introductions, and I used that when I was teaching online for my students as well.
It could work in a rough way, but I don't see Padlet as a blogging tool, but you could probably use Padlet as a blogging tool. I mean,
I just saw like you can put entries on a timeline or like pick different formats.
And then one would
things to it.
Yeah, one would scroll to the left or right to look at each week along the
there's just different. You can choose different ways that you want to present it. I'm not too familiar with other tools to see if they have something similar.
Yeah, if you're looking at timeline-based kinds of tools, that would be one that would enable you to do that.
Can we use the chat feature in Canvas to kind of compare notes through the week as we experiment with some of these different tools? Make recommendations to each other, maybe?
I could create a discussion forum in Dropbox. Might be, not in Dropbox, in Canvas would be even easier. Just say week 1 discussions and just say recommended blogging tools. So if Jennifer, after the class, you send me an email reminding me of that, I'll just create a week 1 thread, a week 1, week 2 thread about task discussions. So Canvas, we could basically use Canvas as kind of a cafe, right? And have people use it as a cafe to kind of give advice and feedback every week or suggestions. I had one semester where students posted job opportunities every week in using that as a cafe kind of thing. Those were undergraduate students though, that semester. My first fully online class in 1997, which is a quarter century ago, we had created a cafe latte. And I could go into more stories, but everyone had a Star Wars name. I was Obi-Wan. Other people, this one poor woman did not like Jabba the Hutt for whatever reason. And so because it wasn't password protected, we had to make avatars for everybody. And it was an interesting semester. And students kicked me out of the cafe. They told me I was in too much. It was their cafe. So I will create a cafe latte kind of place in Canvas, and we'll probably use it in week 1 and maybe some other weeks. But week 1 will be a good time to use it a lot. And I'll create 15 weeks. Just like
opposed to the Star Wars names, if you want to reinstate that.
My R2D2 model, I do bring a lightsaber with me for talks. So I'll take a look and see if I can find all the portfolios of all the Star Wars students. I have an article I wrote on it. I'll send it to you, Brandon, called Getting Smarter in the Smart Web, because the class was called the Smart Web. The website was called the Smart Web. And it was based on social constructivist theory. I never published it. I think it's a very interesting paper. And it has all the Avatar stuff in there. I really should have published that. It was the early, well, we do have one book chapter. I take that back, that was published related to that. So I'll try and find that too, Brandon. And if anyone else is interested, I'll just, I'll find a subtle way to get into a post somewhere.
Just throw it into the syllabus as required reading. Nobody will.
Yeah, we'll definitely get together at Lenny's and we'll talk about it. I'll bring my lightsaber. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. I'm going to stop the recording here at this point, say an end of week 1. I'm stopping the recording now.